promoters pushing them?
Well, I don't participate at all, and I think the world would be better off without them. I think this kind of crazy speculation in enterprises not even found or picked out yet is a sign of an irritating bubble. It's just that the investment banking profession will sell shit as long as shit can be sold.
Awesome quote. Hey guys, welcome back to another series of Future Wealth. Today I saw a lot of articles on Yahoo Finance with Charlie Munger, obviously because he just recently had his shareholder meeting. Great article, a few articles on what his thoughts are in regards to SPAC and owning, like, you know, Bitcoin and all this speculation that's currently going on right now. I believe him. I mean, I don't doubt for a second knowledge that he has, because of what he has become and what he has grown and the things that he's owned. He's seen a lot. He's over 90, feisty as ever. Me personally, my grandfather lived past 90 as well. He's no longer here with us, but he was still strong-minded. And so not all seniors at whatever age becomes, you think, you know, most people think that they become senile or they can't remember things, but no, some people just, they're there all the way to the end. I know my grandfather was, and just by watching, you know, the fact that Charlie Munger is still able to get on front of the screen on TV and still, you know, answer interview questions, he's all there. He has the knowledge, he has the power. I believe him. This article I printed out, I'm gonna be saving this because certain articles that I really love and enjoy to read, I usually print them out unless it's like 20 pages or whatnot, but this is only 3 pages. And the title is basically saying, Charlie Munger, it's absolute insanity to think owning 100 stocks instead of 5 makes you a better investor. Hey, I mean, anything to limit my purchasing from 100. If someone told me, or the normal investment, you know, people telling you that, oh, you have to own at least 100 companies in order to be profitable, you know, that might stare off a lot of people. It definitely would stare me off because I don't know how I would even deep dive into 100 different companies that I would be so strong in and confident in that I wouldn't have to constantly every quarter, maybe every half a year, maybe every year, having to kind of dilute some of them and replace some of them, because 100 companies is a lot. It's not a small feat to, you know, like, it's not a small feat. So in short is 5 stocks. I mean, we have, I took a screenshot. I mean, this is old. I was actually searching for, you know, some of the things that he's owned. This obviously is a little outdated. He's very heavily on Costco right now. I know of that. This is just a website that I picked up. Bank of America. So he's very into the banks. And I don't blame him. They are stable. Just by looking at this, he has Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Costco, Berkshire Hathaway. I'm not sure what that last one is. Bank of Wells Fargo, U.S. Bank. And, okay, so, I mean, I think for the most part, he's right. He wouldn't say what he wouldn't have been doing all this time. So if he's saying 5, that's about more or less how much he owns in the larger percentage, right? I mean, whether he owns like a 0.001% of something else, who knows, right? But he's definitely not into Bitcoin or any of the cryptocurrency because he thinks that's all full of crap. He's actually said that it's all full of crap. SPAC, I believe him. I totally agree with him because he's the boomer generation, I'm the X generation, and there's the millennial generation, right? So boomer, has their way of doing things. The X sort of followed the boomer because we were raised by them, right? So millennials, on the other hand, were raised by, brought up by the X's, but they actually, how do I put that? They are more independent in a way because of the amount of information that's so fast and direct. So they have a sense of them being able to make their own decisions easily. I know for a fact, I know more millennials sitting in front of the screen every single day than doing hard labor. That's a given. I grew up doing hard labor. You know, I worked at the deli, and even during my as I was growing up, I worked in construction, and you know, I held the hammer, I held the wrench, and I did everything I had to do with my bare hand because that's what my father did. That's what that generation, and my grandfather before, you know, was also a farmer. So whole different dynamics. There was no technology, no investing in stocks of technology, no Microsoft, Apple, whatever. So with that being said, I understand where Charlie Munger is coming from, and honestly, you know, it's like martial arts. You can learn to fight from someone who's very young, built, and they have the energy, the strength, or you can also learn the concept of fighting, defense, from someone, a master who has been doing it for years, and equipped to know how to combat because of their own experience. Now, you can take the master and you can take the younger, you know, professional fighter, whatever you want to call them, and put them in the ring together. It's lopsided. Well, because, you know, the prime of that master has already passed, and the prime now for the younger person would be, obviously has that advantage. So there are, what I'm saying is, between, you know, the last generation, the current generation, there is, you know, a mixture of both. Because as I was growing up, you know, there was internet being introduced, you know, like, you know, computers and internet, and you know, getting dial-out modems, things that we don't, you know, the new generation doesn't have to deal with anymore. So we knew struggles, but we were also advancing, meaning the X generation. So maybe not 5, maybe even 10, or maybe a dozen, because there are not as many companies then than there is now, right? So, I mean, then you had your very dominant blue chip market. You know, everything was always goods, right? You didn't even have 30 different car dealerships back then. You had like a handful. You know, as soon as the internet came around, you didn't have Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, and Microsoft. I mean, they existed back in the 70s. All right, I'll take Apple and Microsoft out of the picture for now. But everything else that's here now, a lot of it, what he's saying specifically, like just the SPACs alone, you have all these hypothetical companies that may make it, you know, and people are just betting on it like it's a roulette table. Like, okay, you know, you got all these new space stocks coming out. Let me put it on red for you know, rocket takeoff, and see if it hits. If it doesn't, I miss. And there's no mathematical equation to solving if a company is good or not. You know, with these SPACs, it's just speculation. Oh, whoever's backing it, the CEO or this billionaire, or someone mentioned it in Twitter. It's such a different world. I understand what Charlie Munger is saying, and then I also understand that there's a new aspect of you know, how people think, because I'm kind of like mixed in between that generation, right? Because as I was growing up and I went to college, you know, internet was the thing, computer science, programming, blah, blah, blah. But even then when I went, it didn't filter down different things like, website building and marketing and whatnot. It was just all lumped into one. Computer science was you learn programming, you learn how to build a website, things you don't even do anymore, things you do not even have to do anymore. I did learn C, not proficient, but I learned it enough to do simple things. But that's going off a tangent. So in short, it helps to have Charlie come out and say these things, because as a new investor coming out, you're overwhelmed. You're hearing GameStop, you're hearing Bitcoin, you're hearing, Tesla, and you're hearing Amazon. Like, okay, now, and then you're hearing Twitter, and you're hearing all these SPACs, and SPACs can be whatever. I mean, there's so many that I don't even know. I mean, there's what Grubhub, and maybe not all those, but you got Airbnb, you got all these different things that does not have a financial history to them. And even if they did, it's not long enough to say they're stable. They could be here today, next 5 years, and they're gone, right? We knew that. We know that exists because it happened during the whole internet boom. How many companies survived during that time when the internet started? I mean, besides, and I think there was another article I read, it was, Amazon was during that time. They could have busted easily too. Microsoft was during that time. Apple was there. A lot of companies were during that time, but they actually had something. They produced something. Well, besides Amazon, they were just reselling. But other companies, they came and they went, right? They lasted a couple years, if that, or even less than a year. So it was very hard to say. So like what I'm getting at is that, I understand what Charlie is saying. All you need to do is pick 5. I want to. I definitely want to. As far as, good blue chip stocks, high, like, average or good dividend paybacks, and just reinvesting those dividends each year. Hey, if I can retire with a nest egg that I can survive off of without having to, worry about paying mortgage, rent, or expenses and health and all that, I'm fine with picking 5. And if I could do that now at the age that I'm in till the next 20 years, I would do it. If I knew of a company and they were going to be around for the knowingly, obviously we would have to do our homework and do our own research. If I feel confident of these 5 companies, I would take them, keep them as long as I can or want, and I would go from there as well. It's so relieving to have Charlie come out and say these things, because if not, you have these younger generation CEOs coming out and telling, I don't want to badmouth them, but it's like bragging about their company and oh, we're this, we're that. It's not as modest as it used to be, where you let the numbers decide. You can't come out of nowhere and say I'm a multi-billion-dollar company because whoever so and so said so, and that's it. That's the only reason. There's no other reason. There's no financial backing. There's no profit. There's no income statement to even prove any of that. You're just getting investors back because, oh, I have good advertisement and people are putting money in and they're willing to pay this much for the stock. Out of what are you using to justify? What are you paying for these stocks, right? These SPACs, or these. Oh, like. It's so weird. It's very, and I will link Charlie Munger's, his interpretation of what he feels about SPACs, and interesting 10 SPAC stocks ideas. So thank you guys. Appreciate you guys always being here to for me to rant and rave. But I'm learning as I go as well. And see you again soon. Bye.